Yo guys, Vision here, back with more Minecraft content. Today's episode number 14 will go into detail on the end, what the end is, what you'll need in preparation to explore the end, an overview of all of the biomes, the end cities, the Elytra, the Shulkers, and of course the dragon fight, what you'll need in terms of tips and tricks, as again, to remind you, this is the first time I am playing Minecraft Survival in over 10 years, so there is lots to learn. So, on that note, let's get right into it. So, first things first, what is the end? The end is a different dimension from the overworld, just like the nether, which is only accessible via the end portal, typically found in strongholds, which I've made a previous video on the channel, episode 13, which explains everything you need to know about strongholds, which is linked in the description below, which will show you how to find them, what they are, what you'll need in preparation, and so on. So go check that out if you guys need to understand that. Now, back to the end. It's a dark and eerie realm consisting of floating islands made of end stone, inhabited by the Enderman and the Ender Dragon, of course, which is the game's main boss. Now, defeating the Ender Dragon is considered the primary goal of Minecraft's progression, which even triggers the end game credit scenes. But after defeating the dragon, you can actually access the outer islands via an end gateway, or many different gateways depending on how many times you've defeated the dragon, where you have much more opportunities and adventures ahead of you, like end cities, shulkers, finding valuable loot, and as well as the elytra in the end ships. Now, the end is unique for its void-like environment, where falling off the end basically leads, or the islands itself leads to death, and the general atmosphere is very quiet, and to explore it alone can be quite intimidating at first, especially if you've never seen it or done it before. Now, there are 5 biomes in the end. The first one is the actual end itself, which is the central island where the end, basically the dragon, is, and there are 12 large obsidian spires which will have crystals sit on top of them, which forms basically like a clock, and endermen will walk around on the ground freely. This is effectively the battleground for the dragon fight itself. There is also the end barrens, which is an outer portion of the end that sits on large end islands, which nothing basically appears here besides endermen and end sort of endless abyss beyond. And then also the end highlands, which basically is another outer portion of the end where both the end cities and chorus fruit will appear. These are located at higher elevations than the other biomes typically. There is also the end midlands, which is another outer portion of the end itself where end cities can appear, though chorus fruit does not. And this is basically where I found, in my experience, most end cities and ships are all together clustered in these biomes itself. And then finally, the smaller end islands. These are just basically small floating islands that barren and appear basically packed together for you to traverse along. The end is basically easier for you to access, especially when you're on foot and also have no elytra. So these islands themselves are quite easy for you to navigate across. Now, how does the end actually work? Firstly, once you have access to this dimension from the stronghold, you will spawn in the center of the end, where you will need to build or dig up to get to the actual battle arena itself. Now, this is where you will see the obsidian towers, which all have crystals on top of, and in the middle of that arena is a foundation, sort of a fountain structure, where you'll find the dragon, and he resides there. Now, as for the dragon itself, here's a general overview of the battle, his attacks and methods and strats and all of that sort of stuff, basically, and so on. So firstly, the fight will consist of various different phases. The dragon will fly around constantly, breathing fire. Your goal is to destroy all of those crystals on top of those obsidian towers as quick as possible before you can actually start dealing damage to the dragon, as he, of course, will heal himself. If you do sort of damage to the dragon, he will just literally heal himself from those towers. So basically, destroy all of them first, and that would allow you to sort of go to the next phase of this fight. So some of the towers aren't exactly able to be destroyed from the ground level, so you'll basically have to climb up onto the tallest tower, is my advice, with either scaffolding, a more durable building block, or even water method. Some of the crystals are encased in cages as well, so like the actual metal caging, you'll basically have to remove that outer layer first in order to actually destroy the crystal. So bear that in mind. The crystals do emit an explosion, so don't stand too closely. You'll see in this clip, I basically stood right next to one and just destroyed it. It didn't really do any damage to me, but that's because I had really good armor, so it depends on what stage you're at, of course, in the game. And then once all of the crystals and the towers have been destroyed, you can now start damaging the dragon for real. By using a ranged weapon, you can now hit the dragon itself, dealing that damage, and then each time the dragon is hit, he will return to the center on top of the fountain, where you're able to then use a sword or another melee weapon to unleash a plenty amount of damage. And beware the dragon's breath, of course, that is on the ground. Repeat this phase a couple of times and you will have slain the dragon. Now, as for the resources and preparation in order to defeat the dragon itself, you want a good set of armor. As I said in this clip, I have really good armor, so for me it was pretty easy for the most part. I was not sort of taken away with how easy it was. It was definitely difficult for my friend. He was sort of saying that I sort of carried him through it, which is fair enough because I kind of knew what I was doing. It didn't feel too complicated, but we did have good armor, so I feel that took a big toll on it. If you guys come in here with iron armor or just low diamond armor with no real enchantments, you may struggle with that. Depends if it's the first time you're doing it, or if you guys are experienced, whatever it may be. Of course, also bring a ranged weapon, so bow and arrows for destroying those crystals, and of course dealing range damage to that dragon itself. Empty glass bottles as well for collecting the dragon's breath, and this can be used exclusively to create lingering potions. When combined with a splash potion in a brewing stand, can transform it into a lingering potion, and when thrown, can create a cloud-like status effect, i.e. for poison, healing, strength, whatever it may be, that lingers on the ground for for a short time, affecting any player or mob that enters it. And also, one lingering potion can also create up to 8 tipped arrows as well, so just bear that in mind if you guys want some cool arrows. And as well as that, you will also want to bring a bucket of water for both either the fighting the Enderman as a tactic in order to deal with them, or also use it to climb if you guys need to, but I would not recommend this personally. Also, scaffolding, I would definitely bring this to climb towers, which is a faster method, which is basically safer than using either the watered or the sort of building method, depending on, of course, what your durable building resource is. But if you guys are just using the end stone, which is found here, you're going to find that the dragon can easily destroy them, especially if you're trying to climb those tall towers. And then in addition, also bring end crystals to fight the dragon again if you guys want more of this fight and more different gateways to access the outer islands in different areas, in different points of the end itself. But these can be created using 7 ghast blocks, an Eye of Ender, and a ghast tier. You will need 4 of these crystals each time that you want to summon the dragon again, which is a really good tactic, like I said, if you're trying to create more gateways and different areas to access the actual end from, so just bear that in mind. And then just generally, here are some tips and tricks, some strategies that I have found in my own experience. But to remind you guys, this is the first time I've played Minecraft Survival in over 10 years, so I have only defeated the dragon maybe 5 or 6 times since making the return, so just bear that in mind. I'm no expert by any means, and I'm sure there are players who have done this hundreds of times by now, but I really don't think it's all that difficult for the most part to defeat, and generally once you've done it once, it just gets very easy and simple for the most part. And then finally, as for the dragon egg, don't do what I did in our world and take the egg back to your base and then just place it down as a decorative feature, because you can lose this, and unfortunately there's only 1 egg per world, so once it's gone, which basically really annoyed me, because when I found this out the hard way, I'm a massive collector guy, I love to have trophies and all of that sort of stuff in my world, so once I found that out, that really it kind of did bother me a little bit, because some reason I think my friend just sort of tapped it once in our base and it just despawned. Now I did find out that it does sort of go into the ground in a certain area and you can actually find it, so understanding the egg's behavior first is kind of crucial if you guys are looking to have this as a trophy in your world. So understanding the egg's behavior, the dragon basically egg behaves like a gravity affected block, similar to like sand or gravel. Clicking it will basically direct it, cause it to fall and teleport to a nearby location within a 15 by 31 by 15 block area. So just make sure if you do lose it, you can try and look around in those areas, but good luck to you, because I failed to do so. So I'd like to know if other players have actually managed to reclaim it back once you've actually tapped it or lost it. Now, as for the sort of the collection methods of this dragon, sort of the egg, you can use the piston method or the torch method. If you guys need some help or you guys need any advice on how you do that, let me know and I can let you know down below in the comments. But for the most part, I think it's pretty much self-explanatory. Now, once you actually get the egg itself, make sure that you guys put it somewhere safe and that you guys do not sort of just do what I did in this video and learn from what I've just explained as our mistake for this world. Now, once you've defeated the dragon, you've got the egg, the next step is really to obtain an elytra and some powerful loot. So once the dragon is gone, you will now have access to the end gateway, which will teleport you once to those outer biomes that I've gone over in this video. And here you can traverse the end and find what are end cities, which are basically odd purple structures, very tall and made of purple blocks and yellow glass. Now these structures or blocks do make for a nice decorative feature in your base, so make sure you collect some of these on your journey to bring back to your base as well. And as I said, these cities are tall tower-like structures made of purple blocks and end stone bricks, as well as often containing multiple different rooms, bridges, and loot chests. They are basically inhabited by Shulkers, hostile mobs that shoot projectiles, causing you to levitate, and basically can be tricky to fight back if you guys aren't aware of what you're doing. They are these little boxes that just look really odd. You can tell what they are once you've seen 1 or 2, and they make strange sounds, but for the most part, they are all over these end cities, and end cities are the primary source of valuable items like an elytra for gliding, and shulker boxes, which are a portable storage system. Now, end cities also feature end ships, rare floating-like structures nearby that contain additional loot, which is where you will find the elytra itself in an item frame, and you're also going to find these basically sort of 1 in 2, I'd say. You don't find them every time guaranteed in an end city, but about every sort of 1 in 2 you would find a actual ship itself. Sometimes you can get on a streak and you can find multiple, but sometimes you will find that you don't find sort of an end ship itself for multiple different cities. It just depends on a bit of luck, but like I said, in my experience, I've sort of found it 1 out of 2 times you'll find a city, you will find a floating ship. But for this actually itself, the actual elytra, I'm going to create a separate guide and a shorter video explaining the elytra in a bit more detail, as I do think there are newer players or returning players like myself who could definitely do some tips on this process, especially from a fellow returning player like myself, as they can be tricky to obtain at first, especially with no experience in doing so before, but also how you actually fly one as well can be tricky, and some general tips along the way. So look out for that in the coming weeks, because I do think that should help out some newer players and returning players like myself. Now, end cities can come in various different sizes, some only containing some sort of 1 tower, some with large spires and towers all around, and end ships as well, as I said, or pirate ships as some other players like to refer to them. But another thing I briefly touched on, which is definitely worth discussing, is the shulkers. These are arguably one of the best features in the entire game, a very valuable feature in my opinion. These didn't exist back in the days when I first played and defeated the dragon, so this was a huge surprise to me when I first and learned all about these. It's something I definitely really appreciate and definitely make the most of. It's a portable storage system which helps you significantly, especially when you're going on long trips, like you're trying to go mining or so on. It definitely helps you out. I personally carry around one of these with me all the time in different types of forms for different types of loot, and even name tag them as well, because you got to be organized when you play Minecraft, guys. It's something you have to do when you play Minecraft. It just drives me mad when I come across players who don't do things like this, but just name tagging them for different things like trading or mining diamond, or even a spare loot shulker, these are all separately stored in an ender chest that I also carry around with me at all times, because I've learned the hard way by carrying around shulkers on their own and then dying over things like lava, you'll simply just lose all your shulkers and whatever loot was inside them. So don't do that. As a general tip, make sure you carry around an ender chest with you guys if you're at that stage in the game, because this is a vital lesson I learned the very hard way, so just don't do what I did. So in summary, the end is actually one of the best features in Minecraft, providing some very valuable loot, items, and even experiences that will make playing your survival world even better. Hopefully this video has helped you guys with learning something new, and if you guys were like me, and I used to believe that the end was literally the finale, or the end of the game itself, once you save the dragon, but really in today's game, it's really just the beginning, as many different players will find all sorts of different opportunities by having an Elytra, shulker boxes, which really takes the game to a whole new level, making it more fun, efficient, and enjoyable, as well as rewarding. But that's pretty much it, guys, for the most part. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, as it massively helps me out. And if you have any suggestions or even tips and tricks yourself about playing in the end, finding it, or whatever it may be that could help out newer players or returning players like myself, let me know down below in the comments and I'll get right back to you. I'm Vision SGN. I really hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.